Hi guys, this is Michelle from Deception Bites, and I'm picking up from where we left off. That's me. We're picking up from where we left off in the last video, and I actually have to move this down because I had started recording, and I don't know why, but tonight I am tripping over everything I say, and it could be that I'm just too tired to do this now because it's 11:30 at night, which for me is fairly early, but it's obvious that I'm tired because my tongue is just tripping and so I finally just stopped it and started over. So this is where we left off, and this is where we're going, and I'd like to get through the November 2nd if I can. So the very next post by Q says, follow Senator Grassley. And of course that's the GOP chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. And why do you think that he's telling us to follow Senator Grassley? Well, there's quite a few things that happened that week, and a lot of them center around Senator Grassley, and they're good things. Okay, let me see. Here's one of the good things. U.S. Senator Chuck Grassley, head of the Senate Judiciary Committee, proposed a bill on Tuesday to overhaul disclosure rules regarding anyone working on behalf of a foreign government, a law that has received renewed attention after Paul Manafort was indicted for violating it. I think it would be a wonderful thing to have a law such as that, and I'm not sure why there hasn't been one before now. The proposed legislation, called the Disclosing Foreign Influence Act, would close loopholes in the Foreign Agents Registration Act and require the Department of Justice to develop a strategy for enforcing the law, the Republican senator said in a statement. Manafort, a longtime Republican operative who briefly served as Donald Trump's campaign manager in 2016, and his business associate Rick Gates, pleaded not guilty on Monday to a 12-count indictment that contained charges ranging from money laundering to acting as unregistered agents of Ukraine's former pro-Russian government. So that's one thing. And remember that Q said that Manafort had been placed within Obama's team. So it's not somebody that was chosen. As far as I'm concerned, that's what, according to Q. Now, the tweet follows up, and now I'm not sure what tweet. I put this, I don't know what tweet it is, but the tweet follows up on Senator Grassley's own call Thursday to have the Justice Department lift the non-disclosure agreement, preventing a former FBI confidential informant from speaking to Congress about the handling of a criminal probe linked to a controversial deal that ceded ownership of U.S. uranium assets to the Russian government. Despite an ongoing criminal investigation into the officials working for subsidiaries of Rosatom, the Russian government entity seeking to acquire ownership of U.S. uranium, the Obama administration approved the deal. He said, despite an ongoing criminal investigation into the officials working for subsidiaries of Rosatom, the Russian government entity seeking to acquire ownership of the U.S. uranium, the Obama administration approved the deal. He said that was a really, really long sentence. And my tongue did not like it. The Justice Department has reportedly threatened to prosecute the informant if he discloses details of his involvement in the investigation, he said. The executive branch does not have the authority to use non-disclosure agreements to avoid congressional scrutiny, he said. If the FBI is allowed to contract itself out of the congressional oversight, it would seriously undermine our constitutional system of checks and balances, he said. Yeah, no doubt. The Justice Department needs to work with the committee to ensure that witnesses are free to speak without fear, intimidation, or retaliation from law enforcement. Witnesses who want to talk to Congress should not be gagged and threatened with prosecution for talking. Hang on. If that has happened, senior Department of Justice leadership needs to fix it and release the witness from the gag order, Grassley said. So that's another reason why Q told us to follow Senator Grassley. Okay, I got this from Grassley's own website. The Iranian nuclear deal was a bad deal and won't increase national security or the security of U.S. allies. The deal was signed as international sanctions were hurting Iran, despite President Obama's assurances that the deal would dismantle Iran's nuclear program. The strong position that the United States had at the negotiating table was whittled away. This deal accepts and legitimizes Iran as a nuclear threshold state. Billions of dollars have been given to the Iranian regime as a result of this deal and will lead to more Iranian-financed terrorism. Senator Grassley understands that cash ransom payments for hostages to the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism puts a price on the head of every American citizen. Grassley puts sovereignty and security of American citizens first. As well he should. And this is interesting too. This is another thing that happened that week. Not quite that week, but the following week. November 14th, Senate Judiciary Chairman Charles E. Grassley signaled this week he won't adhere to a strict blue slip policy for judicial nominees, clearing the path for Republicans to install some of President Trump's picks over the objections of home state Democrats. Mr. Grassley said the blue slip tradition was intended to make sure that President consults with senators about judicial picks from their states, but wasn't intended to give those same senators an absolute veto. A senator can't use a blue slip to block a nominee because it's not the person the senator would have picked. The president gets to nominate judges, Mr. Grassley said on the chamber floor Monday. Under the tradition, unless both home state senators return their blue slips signaling acquiescence, the Senate Judiciary Committee usually won't proceed with a nomination. So that's an interesting development too. And I think that's it. Now, why does Senator Grassley, and he says one example, have a higher than normal amount of security detail? Well, I would imagine because he feels that he's in danger, or he actually is in danger, or there have been threats made against him. That's my take. I don't know. I couldn't find. I went out and tried to look and see if he had increased amount of security detail, and I couldn't find it. But I believe Q is telling us that he does, and there obviously must be a reason for it. Why is Grassley and others held in a secure location? Well, obviously there have to have been some credible threats made, or they wouldn't be. When did this start? Well, this week, and by this week I mean the first week in November. What has been different this week? And then he gives us the answer below, and that is the Uranium 1 FBI informant. Have secret sessions been underway? Well, I think it's safe to assume that if he's pointing that out and asking us, it's sort of rhetorical, and secret sessions have been underway. How could this be discovered? I'm not sure. And if anyone else knows, please leave a comment below. What must be reported, even if filed under state secrets? I tried to find the answer to this, and I couldn't. If anyone knows, again, please let me know in the comments below. Other people that are listening to the video will probably look at the comments as well, so it just benefits everyone. And then he says, it's a name recognized around the world, and I'm not sure what he's alluding to there at all. And then he says Alice in Wonderland. Now, originally I thought that Alice in Wonderland was referring to CERN, and I'll tell you why. If you take the word Alice and then take the word separately, Wonderland, and then use the word uranium, you'll come up with, an interesting article. I'm not going to go to it now because my computer is so slow, but that's something that you can do. And I'm not so sure that it doesn't have something to do with CERN, but I don't know. I don't know. Okay. Now he's saying November 2nd at 2:06 p.m. And I'm telling you, he was very, very active on November 2nd. He says, big drop. And by that he meant like a big intel drop on the forum. And he says, how did North Korea obtain uranium? And I said, Iran. How did Iran obtain uranium? The U.S. And he's leading us to the answers he wants, because he tells us the answer in the next thing. He says, how did North Korea obtain uranium? How did Iran obtain uranium? Why did Barack Obama send billions in cash and wire to Iran? Well, part of that money was owed to Iran because the U.S. froze all the Iranian funds in American banks as retribution for seizure of the U.S. embassy in Tehran. And that was at the time that revolution was sweeping through the nation. So part of that we really did owe them. But there was another cash component, and Q asks about that right here. Why the cash component? Well, I would ask that too. I mean, I did ask that. As I was reading about this, I thought this doesn't make sense. The cash component was an exchange for hostages, or was the hostage component a cover? I believe it was a cover. It was told to everyone that it was in exchange for the hostages, but really, I believe that that was a cover. For what? Well, possibly that money was used for weapons and uranium. It obviously, part of it went to fund terrorism. Could any of that cash component be handed off to other people? Well, there's nothing to prevent it from being handed off to other people, so it could have been. How many planes carried the cash into Iran? I'm not sure. I tried to find the answer to that, and I couldn't find it. Did all land in Iran? No. At least one that I found landed in Geneva. So, did all land in the same location? Now, within Iran, I'm not sure if all landed in the same location. If there was other planes beside the one, I'm not sure if they all landed together or not. But again, if anyone knows, please leave it in the comments. Why is this relevant? Well, it's highly relevant. Who controls North Korea? I said China, Iran. Who really controls North Korea? And I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. Because Q's already told us that Kim is not in control of that country, that there's another entity in control. And so, I don't know. I really don't know. Don't think of a single person. And again, I'm not thinking of a single person. I would be thinking of a country. I don't know. Why is this important? Well, there's a lot of reasons why it's important. Why are wars so important? Well, wars are important to definitely to the economy. Who benefits? Well, I don't know. I mean, there are so many answers to that. I mean, we all know that war is a huge money-making proposition and boosts the economy. I don't know. What does hostage refer to? And I said collateral. I mean, if I'm in possession of something that you want, then I'm in a position of bargaining with you. Because if there's something that I want and I've got something that you want, it increases their bargaining, their position at the bargaining table. And he asks, who can be held hostage and controlled by North Korea having miniaturized nuclear weapons? Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm not sure the answer he's looking for there. I guess that would be a better way to put it. And if anyone else has more insight into this than I have, then please let me know. Because I realize that, there's lots of people that have more insight into this, and I think maybe together we can all sort of decode this and see where it's going. Where is Barack Obama today? And again, I couldn't find where he was on November 2nd. So where is VJ? And that would be Valerie Jarrett, and she is the advisor of the Obama Foundation. Now, I do believe that they were having there was a convention or something of that foundation that day. I did find that. And if that could be the answer he's looking for, because he asked where is VJ, and she's the advisor of the Obama Foundation. I'm just not sure. I mean, he's leading with these questions and he's looking for specific answers, and I'm not sure I have the correct answers at times. And he says, don't think of a single person, think of a powerful entity. That's an interesting word, entity. Does anybody have insight into that? What could he mean by that? To me, it sounds like he's not talking about a country and he's not talking about a person. So what is he talking about? I don't know. Okay. Now, this is about the Obama cash. Prepare to get angry. The Obama administration made 2 additional cash payments totaling $1.3 billion after delivering $400 million to Iran by plane in January to resolve a failed arms deal, administration officials told lawmakers Tuesday. I am sorry for all this stuff popping up. The briefing, first reported by the Wall Street Journal, was confirmed to CNN by congressional aides who attended. The additional payments were delivered to Iran in Swiss francs. Interesting. Euros and other currencies. It's sure to stoke more criticism from Republicans. Well, you bet. Who had already sharply denounced the $400 million transfer as ransom. And yeah, that cash payment was made in January, on the same day Iran released 4 American prisoners and formally implemented the nuclear deal. The money was flown in a plane to Iran on wooden pallets stacked with various currencies to resolve a dispute between the two countries stemming from a failed arms deal before the Islamic Revolution in 1979 that toppled the Shah. So, yeah, he sent a whole bunch of money over there. And as far as this VJ, Valerie Jarrett, others in the media and Washington circles portray Jarrett, who held top positions in Chicago government and business, as a brilliant strategist and thinker who practically runs both wings of the White House and who did as much or more than anyone to put the Obamas there. So that is who VJ is, and apparently they're very, very close. Like, her and the Obamas are very, very close. And again, he signs off with Alice in Wonderland. So let's go on. Yeah. November 2nd, 2:12 p.m. Dear Patriot, we hear you. We hear all Americans such as yourself. The time has come to take back our great land. The time is now. Rest assured, Potus is backed by the absolute finest people alive, who are all dedicated to the eradication of, he should have put of evil, and corruption from the U.S. world. Find peace. God is with us. God bless, and be safe. The White House. I don't think that there's anything there to comment on much. It's pretty self-explanatory. He is claiming that he is about eradication of evil and corruption, and he says that he is doing such right now. I would tend to think that he is and agree with that. Okay. Let's go up to here, and I'm just going to take a drink because my throat is killing me. Sorry. Review Barack Obama's financial disclosure when he submitted pre-Democratic election campaign. And I did go out there and did see that he had submitted a financial disclosure, and I did actually find it. But the print was so small, I really couldn't tell much of what it said, other than he got, significant amount from his book sales. And then Q asks, what is the annual salary of a sitting president, U.S. president? And it's $400,000 plus $50,000 for expenses. And you can imagine, the president would have a lot of expenses. What homes were just purchased by Barack Obama? I'm only aware of one home, but he has homes. So the one is in D.C. and it's close to the White House. So that was just purchased. And how much did it cost? $8.1 million. How does it reconcile? It doesn't. We don't know where the Obamas got all their money. But it seems like all these people with foundations get rich really quickly. And that's a pattern that I'm seeing. How does it reconcile? It doesn't. What is the net worth of Pelosi? $29 million. How does it reconcile? It doesn't. What is the John McCain Institute? And the McCain Institute for International Leadership is a Washington, D.C. based think tank in cooperation with Arizona State University, whose mission is to advance leadership based on security, economic opportunity, freedom, and human dignity in the United States and around the world. The institute was formed in 2012 and is named after the U.S. Senator and 2008 Republican Party presidential nominee John McCain from Arizona. Based in Washington, D.C., the McCain Institute is part of Arizona State University. The current executive director of the current executive director of the McCain Institute is Kurt Volker. And notice any patterns relating to the Clinton Foundation. Well, other than the fact that all these guys seem to have their own foundation. I mean, there's the Obama Foundation, there's the Clinton Foundation, they all have their own foundations, and then it's like, poof, they're, multimillionaires. Notice any patterns? That's the only pattern I can think of. Where did John M. obtain his surgery? And that was done at the Mayo Clinic. Why is that relevant? It's relevant because Barbara Bush is on the board of directors. What surgery did he supposedly have? Well, I read one place it was to remove a brain tumor, and I read another place, both credible news services, as much as mainstream media can be credible. So one said it was to remove a tumor, one said it's to remove a blood clot above the eye. I'm not sure which is which, but they're both pretty serious. How many days until he was back in Congress and sitting on the OS? I'm not even sure what that stands for. Anyway, McCain returned to the U.S. Senate 10 days after recovering from surgery to remove a malignant brain tumor. That's really quickly. Yeah. I mean, he's not young. I'm not sure how old John McCain is, but he's not young. And so for him to return to work 10 days after brain surgery, that is a little bit curious. What is John McCain's net worth? $21 million. How does it reconcile? It doesn't. What is MW's net worth? I'm not sure who this is. I kept thinking and probably when somebody tells me who it is, I'm going to go, oh, Why didn't I get that? But if somebody knows who MW is, could you put it in the comments below? How does it reconcile? Well, I'm sure it doesn't. Otherwise, Q would not have brought it up. You can play this game with most Democrats and many Republicans. What does swamp refer to? Well, I lived in Louisiana, and, it's just people say that all the time about people being thrown in the swamp. You drain the swamp and you find the bodies. And I think that's what Q is trying to do, if Q is Trump. But I do believe that Trump is trying to drain the swamp and find the bodies. What does money buy? Ooh, money buys a whole lot, especially if you are materialistic and greedy. It buys silence. It buys loyalty. Can buy just about anything. And then he closes with Alice in Wonderland. We're crawling up here. November 2nd, again. List out all who have foundations. Why is this relevant? The foundations that I know about are the Clinton Foundation, the Obama Foundation, the Mccain Institute. I'm not sure if there's others or not. And I really didn't do a lot of in-depth research into who in the government has foundations, but I might be actually very, very shocked. How can donations be used personally? Well, you can use donations personally because I know that if you run a nonprofit, you can draw salary, and you can say that that's your salary. And you can kind of make your own salary as far as I know. But if I'm wrong, please let me know. I know that it gives you 501c3 status. Beyond that, I'm not sure, but if anyone has any deeper insight into that, please let us know. How can be used personally? Analyze the filings. Well, I didn't do that. I don't have time for that. That would take, seriously, some of these posts, just one post would take months and months and months to research. And, it would be interesting, it would be fascinating, but I can't do that. I just don't have that kind of time to invest. Who is charged with overseeing this? The IRS? Well, by him even asking that, IRS is the answer, and of course that would be the answer we would give anyway. And then he asked, corrupt, politically motivated, both. The level of corruption in our country and most others is so severe, there is only one way. And of course he's talking about the military. Alice in Wonderland. So, and this small little post here, he says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. And that is from Jeremiah. What was that verse? I've had that verse memorized because it's one of my favorites, but it's out of the Bible. And he's just quoting scripture there. And the next one says, look to Twitter. Exactly this. And then quote, my fellow Americans, the storm is upon us. End quote. God bless. Now, to me, this says, look to Twitter, and then exactly this, that he was going to post, my fellow Americans, the storm is upon us. To my knowledge, I don't know that he has. I did look through his tweets, but obviously I didn't look through every single tweet. So if somebody knows the answer to that, please let us know. And we'll go on. November 2nd. Still on November 2nd. Okay, perhaps recognizing this is, I want to say this too before I get into this. This does not seem like the same person writing that has written all the stuff previous, because it's like the voice changes. And you know what I mean by that. It's, you can tell somebody's, way of talking and way of relating, and he's been relating that way all through these posts. And then all of a sudden, he's relating in paragraphs. And to me, that said, either that this isn't Q, or that somebody else is posting on his behalf who has a different style. I don't know. I'm really not sure. But I'll read this. Perhaps recognizing how offensive such ties will be to voters concerned over future terrorist attacks on this country by radical Muslims professing allegiance to Sharia law, the Clinton campaign on Monday tried to downplay Mrs. Abedin's involvement in the Journal and the Muslim Brotherhood. The Clinton surrogate group, Media Matters, claims predictably there was no evidence that Ms. Abedin or her family had ties to the Muslim Brotherhood, and that the Trump campaign staffers who spoke of these ties were conspiracy theorists. To debunk the evidence, Media Matter pointed to a Snopes.com fact-check piece, and that is so laughable, it's ridiculous, that cited it as its sole source. So its sole source for accusing Trump of being a conspiracy theorist and saying there was no evidence was Snopes. Can you believe that? Senator John McCain, cited as its sole source, Senator John McCain. Yeah, so the fact check was on Snopes, and Snopes was quoting Senator John McCain, and Senator John McCain and Trump are oil and water. So, yeah. This is the same John McCain who met Libyan militia leader, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, a known Al-Qaeda associate, and saluted him as my hero during a 2001 visit to Benghazi. Yeah, that's really quite unbelievable. So, this is the next one, November 2nd, 4:39 p.m. I can't believe how many posts were made on November 2nd. It is unbelievable. Okay, Senator McCain and others roundly criticized Republican Michelle Bachmann in 2012 when she informed members of the House Permanent Select Committee Intelligence and the House Judiciary Committee cited Ms. Abedin in letters sent to the Inspector General of the Department of Defense, Department of State, Department of Justice, Department of Homeland Security, and Office of the Director of National Intelligence, warning about Muslim Brotherhood infiltration of the United States government. Why is this relevant? Who took an undisclosed trip to Saudi Arabia? What was the purpose of, I think that means a phone to phone, I'm not sure what that means, phone call, but I'm pretty sure that somebody does, so please enlighten us all by leaving a comment below. Now, in terms of who took a trip to Saudi Arabia, that would be John McCain. Yeah. And in an unusual move for a sitting senator, John McCain secretly traveled to northern Syria last week to speak with American military officials and Kurdish fighters at the forefront of the push to drive Islamic State out of their de facto capital of Raqqa. I think that's how you pronounce that. The short visit came in the middle of a regional trip that took McCain from Saudi Arabia to Turkey, where he discussed evolving plans to counter the Islamic State in the Middle East. Yeah, well, why didn't they do something about this before? Why is he doing this now? And how inappropriate is that? It boggles my mind. I just don't understand why the media is not all over this. Well, wait, I do understand why the media is not all over this. Of course we understand. So, U.S. officials familiar with Mr. McCain's trip said that the senator traveled to Kobani, the Syrian town on the Turkish border controlled by Kurdish forces since 2012. In a statement, Mr. McCain's office confirmed that a trip took place, saying the senator, quote, traveled to northern Syria last week to visit U.S. forces deployed there and to discuss the counter-ISIL campaign and ongoing operations to retake Raqqa. Mr. Mccain is believed to be the first U.S. lawmaker to travel to the Kurdish-controlled area of northeastern Syria since it became a hub for American Special Operations Forces who are aiding local forces in the fight against Islamic State. Of course, this trip came just a couple weeks after Trump issued a presidential memorandum giving his new Secretary of Defense, James Mattis, 30 days to draw up a military plan to defeat ISIS, declaring definitely that it is the policy of the United States that ISIS be defeated. And I just find this interesting that now he's taking a trip. He's taking a trip now. It's unbelievable. Like, why weren't they doing something about the threat long before now? And why were they supplying them with weapons? And we all know they were. So I think that is all the comment that I had on this, but let me go down to make sure. Oh, yes, this too. The Clinton campaign is attempting once again to sweep important questions under the rug about top aide Huma Abedin, her family ties to the Muslim Brotherhood and to Saudi Arabia, and her role in the ballooning Clinton email scandal. Her mother, Salia Abedin, sits on the presidency staff council of the International Islamic Council for Dawah and Relief, a group that is chaired by the leader of the Muslim Brotherhood. And again, I'm just going to murder his name, so I'm not going to try it. Okay. So it's all very interesting. Very interesting indeed. And again, I don't know what this... is it phone to phone? I don't know. F2FV phone call. Not sure. But please, anyone that knows, please let me know. And again, Alice in Wonderland. And then he asks, why is this relevant? Who took an undisclosed trip to Saudi Arabia? And it's odd because it's like the last half of the last post has been posted again. So I don't know what was going on there. Okay. Oh, and somebody else on one of the comments, they said, actually, the posts do not start on October 31st, that there was 11 posts before that. I am not aware of that. I was, I don't know. I thought that was the beginning, but if there are 11 posts prior to that one, and somebody knows where I can get them, because I'm telling you, 4chan is a nightmare to try and get all these posts. Okay. Now this led me on a little interesting side trip, and which I won't take you on. I'll spare you. But I actually watched the welcome in Saudi Arabia of the Potus during his trip, and I was really astounded. I mean, it was fascinating. And if you can, I would suggest that you Google that, or like on YouTube, search for it on YouTube, because it's there. It's the opening ceremony, and it was quite spectacular. And how did Saudi Arabia welcome Potus during his trip? Well, they rolled out the red carpet, and they did a ceremonial sword dance. And the Saudi leaders hailed Trump's visit as a reset of regional order. Now, why was this historic, I think he means event, why was this historic event not covered by mainstream media? And that is a very good question, a very good question. How did Saudi Arabia welcome Barack Obama during his trip? Well, interestingly enough, let me see where I wrote that. Yeah, I was a little bit shocked at this. President Obama met for 2 hours Wednesday with Saudi, and I'm not sure the date that this is from, but it's was, I think, 2016. President Obama met for 2 hours Wednesday with Saudi Arabia's new king at a time when the friendship between the two nations is strained, to say the least. That was obvious when Air Force One landed in, I'm not sure how to pronounce the name of that. Mr. Obama was met by a small delegation minus the usual pomp and ceremony that is usually given to world leaders. Nor was his arrival shown on Saudi state television. Now, Trump's ceremonial welcoming was shown on Saudi television, and it was no small deal. It was a huge deal. So it's interesting that Obama was met by such a small delegation. Senior Saudi officials made clear that relations with the U.S. will only improve after President Obama leaves office. The Saudis are particularly angry about the Iran nuclear deal, and they believe that only the next U.S. president, whether it's Hillary Clinton or even Donald Trump, will be able to restore Saudi Arabia's status as America's key ally in the Middle East. Saudi leaders also flatly reject Mr. Obama's description of them as free riders, too reliant on American military power. Most importantly, they say the U.S. shouldn't be alienating them, and I agree, because they need Saudi Arabia's support to defeat ISIS and Al-Qaeda. And I agree. I really don't think that we should be ticking Saudi Arabia off. That's just my 2 cents, but... And down here is another thing, another mention of it. When Obama greeted Saudi officials at the international meeting in 2009, video shows Obama appearing to bow to the then King Abdullah, breaking with official State Department policy that advises the U.S. president to not bow to any world leaders. Isn't that interesting? I remember, too. I mean, that was in the news, that he did that. I know people were not very happy. Okay, so how did Saudi Arabia welcome Barack Obama? Well, it sure wasn't the welcome that Trump received. How did Saudi Arabia welcome Hillary Rodham Clinton during her trip? And I couldn't find the answer to that. But I would assume that since Q is pointing it out, that it was less than enthusiastic. That's what I would say. Why is this relevant? And then he says, not suggesting Saudi Arabia is clean by any means, but they play a role in this global game of risk. And of course, we know that. Then Q says, combine all posts and analyze. The questions provide answers, and yes, they do. Remember, information is everything. The flow of information is no longer controlled by the mainstream media, but by you and others. Hence, why we are dedicating critical time to distribute crumbs, which can be followed in greater detail to paint the entire picture once more information is released. Why has Potus dedicated so much time into labeling the mainstream media as fake news? Because they are, and we all know that they're infiltrated by the CIA. Why is this relevant? Well, we know why it's relevant. We are fully prepared that all social media will be shut down to prevent the spread of this information. And of course, POTUS Twitter did go down. Sealed federal orders pre-submitted as prevention and masked as in general, though that does not account for rogue agents, programmers within. Dates, impending actions are deliberately provided for authenticity. And then again, of course, he ends with Alice in Wonderland. And again, November 2nd, he says, you can count the people who have the full picture on 2 hands. Of those, less than 10 people, only 3 are non-military. So he's saying there's less than 10 people that know, have the full picture, and there's only 3 that are non-military. Interesting. Why is this relevant? Well, I think it's obvious. Because, I mean, Trump is leaning heavily on the military to do what he's going to do. So it is relevant that there are so many military that have the full picture. Outside of a potential operator who has been dialed in with orders specific to his/her mission, nobody else has this information. Operators never divulge. Alice in Wonderland. November 2nd, 2017. Please refer back and collect my crumbs. As discussed, we've anticipated the Twitter and other social media blackouts. Rogue agents/programmers. Per sealed federal orders, we quickly tracked and reinstated, and he's talking about reinstated his Twitter account. Expect outages periodically. And he puts in parentheses, infiltrated. If this doesn't signal what I've been saying, I don't know what will. Q. Now, yeah, his Twitter account went down on that date, November 2nd. And it was blamed on a rogue employee, if you remember. And even I thought that was, it's pretty obvious that it wasn't a rogue employee. Okay. November 2nd. Highly recommend somebody take all my crumbs and put it into a massive dump, a single shot. This will be considered the biggest inside approved dump in American history. They are beginning to understand, as Podesta's attorney was just notified. All my dumps are being recorded, but again, it doesn't matter. Alice in Wonderland. Where is Barack Obama today? If anyone knows where Barack Obama was on November 2nd, can you leave it in the comments below? I could not find that information. So, unless, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm yawning. Okay, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I seem to think that his foundation was having some shindig that day, but I don't know. Okay. November 2nd. To those watching, you know who you are. You have a choice to make. You can stand up and do what you know to be right, or you can suffer the consequences of your previous actions. Make no mistake, you are on the losing side. The choice is yours. If you decide to take down, that's the forum, politically incorrect on 4chan, and the net will be ready. And the net, we will be ready. And there's a bunch of numbers and letters here that's obviously code to somebody. I don't know what it means, and I'm not so sure that it's meant for us anyway. I do believe that this Q is giving signals and so forth to other people through these messages. I think there's much more here than we're even aware of, but that to me looks like code for something. And I think the rest of that is self-explanatory. November 2nd. Fellow patriots, I've been advised actions have created accelerated counteractions. We have not yet ascertained the scope of the attack. Watch the news outlets. Potus' Twitter takedown was not by accident, as referenced several hours ago. Should the lights go out, please know we are in control. Do not panic. We are prepared and assets are in place. God bless. I must go for good at this point. However, he doesn't go for good. November 2nd. Flash traffic. Three-letter agency embedded tracking up channel into Potus Twitter to specifically target through specialized geo and send his location. We anticipated this. See post a few hours ago. It has begun. Perhaps more posts to follow as expected imminent departure. And I think he's talking about departure on his trip because he leaves for Asia, I think on the 3rd. And he signs off Q. I don't know what that flash traffic means. Does anyone know? I'd ask that you'd leave it in the comments if you do, because it means something. November 2nd. Let's be real clear. The CIA just attacked the command-in-chief, which was immediately detected by NSA/military intelligence and alerted to Potus. Re-review all my crumbs, including today, yesterday, weekend. What does this mean? What actions are immediately occurring? Well, the next day, Podesta gets indicted. So what actions are immediately occurring? If this leaks, or the immediate action ongoing at Langley, you'll have your verification ahead of schedule. Q. So he's just saying the CIA attacked the commander-in-chief, which was immediately detected by the NSA and military intelligence, and he was alerted. And he's thinking that this attack occurred because of what is about to happen. And there's two things about to happen. He's about to leave the country, and John Podesta is about to get his indictment. And I think, yeah, this is where I'm going to stop for the night because I'm really tired. I just yawned, and that is extremely rude. So I'm going to leave it there. But I got us up to November 3rd. I mean, that's got to count for something. Okay. Well, if you're enjoying these, buy me a coffee. And I'll see you in the next one.